Welcome to another episode of Top You. I'm Claudia Cimenti, personal coach and founder of Top Coach Luxembourg, and join me today as I talk with Anna Dannfeld, a awareness coach out of France. We will be talking about goals. Are they important? When should you have them? And much more. Let's get to it. Let's get started.
I would like to start with, I remember years ago, but like 20, 30 years ago, it was all this talk about goals. And it was that they had to be, maybe that was the smart thing, that they have to be short and have a time limited. And, over time, the rest fine. I'm okay with that. But the time limiting gets a bit weird for me, because what if that's not possible? It sort of sets up for failure. You can set the time and say, I want to do this then, but then, as you know, life comes in between, and maybe you have lots of children, or your hubby gets sick, or you have an accident, or whatever. You know what I mean? So looking at it as so, I think goals are really important. And I think goals sort of are a little bit goals dash dreams, right?
Yeah, well, I maybe have a little bit of a different take on this. I think that fundamentally there's, if, later let's actually talk about whether we should have goals and when we should have goals and so on. That let's not forget to talk about that. But to look again at this time limited thing. There are goals that are bound to a deadline.
Yeah.
Get a, if you're a student, you have to get a paper out in time. If you're at work, your team has to deliver a certain project on time. You have certain deliverables, and so on. So those obviously have kind of built-in deadlines. Other things I would actually think about more as habits as well, because a thing also can be this kind of a habit, right? Because wouldn't it be a goal to I go out for a walk 4 times a week, let's say? That could be a goal, but see, I wouldn't call that a goal per se. I would call that a habit.
Yes.
A habit. We want to have this habit. And one thing that I noticed in my coaching experience, that habits stick easier if these things without a deadline get hooked into things with a deadline. I am going to go for a walk 4 times a week so that I get fitter, so that on April 15th, I am able to go for a nice hike with my friends.
So connecting it to the why, connecting the habit to the why.
To the why, but also to time.
Yeah.
Because I think that it helps with sticking to it.
Yeah.
Helps with stick-to-itiveness, right? So you take it away from just this endless thing, and you hook it sometimes into other things that make it more attractive, really. Make it more attractive and keep you accountable. Because the danger, and I found this with myself, it's like, yeah, so since it's a thing forever, if I miss a day,
I see what you're saying.
Right. And accountability goes out the window unless you have like massive amounts of willpower. But when you tie it to, well, there's this get together and I better be fit a little bit.
Or this pretty dress, or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I want to eat healthy to be fit, and maybe as a consequence lose some weight so that I can fit into the dress by summer or something like that, right? So
you're absolutely right.
So that is another thing, because see, when you have time-bound goals, it helps with accountability, because frankly, everybody and their dog can set goals.
Yeah.
But actually working consistently on them to make them happen is a completely different thing, isn't it? I mean, we all know what happens to New Year's resolutions.
Yeah, here today, gone tomorrow. Did you ever do New Year's resolution?
Excuse me?
Did you ever do New Year's resolution?
I did judiciously. Even this year, I kind of did judiciously. And, you know, a New Year's resolution can even be not to have New Year's resolution.
Oops.
Right. I think that you have to know yourself and then really, I don't wait for New Year's to give me a compelling starting point for anything, right? It's like in our family, we do not buy Christmas gifts because we buy what is needed when it's needed. You know, if I have an idea to get my dad a gift in November, I'm not going to wait until Christmas to give it to him, right?
I agree.
So calendar things are indicators, but you know, kudos to some people that then do it on New Year's and actually pull through with it. Accountability is a big one. I'm sure that we are going to talk quite a bit of it over time about accountability and actually keeping your promises and doing
I
what
think
you do.
I think accountability is key, really, because what I see now, for example, after the COVID thing, and all these communities are building online, suddenly I think for a lot of people, they're finding accountability that they might not have had before. Do you understand what I'm saying? They join groups, and like I do training with this for this Russian lady because the Russians are so acrobatic and I like acrobatics. And there's this whole group page, and you know, you get triggered by seeing them, because I'm not the kind of person, I wouldn't go away somewhere to train because I'm too lazy. I'm not interested in that, and I want to do it in the morning and I want to do it my way, but I have discipline. But I love being part of a group where I can see things happen and I can see what they're doing, and being part of this group, you know. And I think I think there are a lot of people like me, they wouldn't go to the gym, or they wouldn't go to this group, or they're not groupie people. And it's very easy to have it on your phone. And in a way, as you can access it all the time, 24/7, I think that can create a sort of accountability, because you want to also be part of this, and you see people are sharing both good and bad, you know, so you feel like, oh, I'm part of this.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, accountability, having accountability partners, accountability buddies, often called, you know, being a member of a supportive group, it is very, very helpful, right? Because I think that research shows that the moment you commit your thing to a group or to other people, the chances of you actually doing it go up like by a large percentage point, like 60% or something. Don't quote me on it. I would need to. So that definitely is a very, very good strategy to do. But now again, if we go back to maybe the setting of goals, you mentioned, and you know, that time, having the time component is kind of an iffy one. So if we were to say in conclusion that you just have to be aware what kind of goal that you're setting,
Yes.
and you know, when a deadline makes sense, that you really put it in, also in that mental framework or written framework that you have for your goal. And sometimes it's actually helpful to you know, link long open-ended habits, you know, more to things that are more you know, hooked into a timeline, because that really can help. I think I interrupted you. What were you going to say?
I was I was going to say something else. Well, it's sort of a little bit with accountability and all, but it sort of falls into all this, which really had me thinking. For a few years ago, my son said to me, he said, you are so impressive because you always do what you say you're going to do. Accountability. Well, there's a flip side to this. If I'm not absolutely sure, will I say it? You see? So when you open up to accountability or to setting a goal and having a partner or whatever, you have to also, once you make that decision, you have to follow through. To me, I'm like that. If I make that decision, if I put it out there, I will have to follow through no matter what, because that's my character. So if I'm not entirely sure, I say nothing. So basically, I look really good because, so, and that's been going in my head. First, I was really touched and I thought, that's a good example for my son. And then I started thinking about it again and I thought, oh my God, I'm a wimp.
No, I wouldn't see. I mean, I have a little bit of a different take on it because I allow myself to change my mind.
Yes.
Right. So it's not a thing of I give up, but I have tried something, been there, done that. I am very aware of what I was after, what's actually happening, and so on, and I reassess. And then I can absolutely change my mind.
But I think your mind is changing the mind. I think in all goal setting or accountability or whatever, I think we have to factor in change, because change is a given. Change, it is always going to be there for whatever reason. Things can change. COVID, hello, how many people had to change their goals or their plans because COVID came? Oh, totally out of our control. So I think we have to be supple enough to also go with the changes that come in and reset the structure to fit with whatever changes they may be.
Yeah, I believe that adaptability and flexibility and this whole thing of resilience also being part of that is hugely important. Goals, just like our life and our mindset, should be something that is living and breathing with us, right? And our goals, they're our personal mental constructs. So we can live with them and adapt them and develop them as our requirements change, which is not wussing out. I do not give anybody carte blanche now to willy-nilly, oh, it was too hard. Yeah, that's not what we're talking about. No. But it's just like conscientiously, based on who you are, what you're after, what your life goals are, to be able to adapt and change your mind, but not because you hear somebody else criticize you or
not just caving. It's like taking a drive, isn't it? You're driving from A to B, and somewhere in between it's a route barrée. It's a route barrée. You have to change your mind. You have to change your way to get to point B. Change is constant in life. So it's
barriers
really
are going to come. Barriers are going to come, and route barrée is a closed road.
And there's a lot of those in Luxembourg.
Yeah. Oh my Lord, yes. So absolutely, there is going to be detours. We have to adapt. I think all of us got hit by a curveball, more or less strong, with this whole COVID thing. As a coach, I see that a lot of people are kind of still at a loss of reference points and fixed points because you really do not know yet what's going to transpire. But I see it as an opportunity to take this moment and really look inwards and see who you are, what do you want to accomplish, and once stuff opens up again more, which directions do you want to take, and look much more deeply into things, because we all know now that we cannot rely on externally created or externally provided reference points.
Mm,
right?
right.
It's like you have, and once you know what your own vision, mission, and purpose is in life, then you will at least have some general directions in which you want to move and at which you can align yourself once you have to take maybe again some life altering decisions like what's your career going to be like, or where are you going to live, or how are you going to make your living, or
Mm,
how are you going to
mm.
interact with people. So goals, yeah, goals are a big one, but let me ask you, do you think goals are important?
Yes, I think goals are important. I think goals are, it's like going out. If you're just floating around in the big blue, you're going to float around or float around or float around. Or for me, coming from the forest, you can walk in circles. You walk in circles for days. The forest in Sweden is huge. So you have to have, even if it's just a small idea, already there, it's a goal. I'm going somewhere. I'm I want this or I want that. And the goal can be as simple as I want to buy a mascara. Because I think for a lot of people, the whole idea of goals is so huge and difficult, and it turns straight away to really big, massive things that I think a lot of people have a problem grasping. They feel that's not me. So I think it's important to understand that the goals we set can be really tiny. It's still a goal. I am here and I want to be there, whatever it is. And like you said, even with habits, I create these new habits because I want to be there. So yes, I think goals are really, really important. It's a forward movement. And I think everybody sets goals in different ways, be totally unaware of it, you know? So yeah, goals, definitely goals. It's an important.
Goals are important. I might like to temper it a little bit, like I usually do, because my
Yes.
standard go-to thing is like it depends, right? Um, and I think you made a very good distinction here between like the small everyday goals and the big life arching life decisions kind of goals, right? And I think we need both,
Mm.
but the big, large, overarching ones, I wouldn't jump to that goal decision, like what you want to do, unless you do a little bit of soul searching first.
Oh, definitely.
Right.
Definitely.
So,
Yeah.
no, but a lot of people think that a new journey starts with, oh, I'm going to have 2 million euros by, 2025. I'm going to
Mm.
have that much money in the bank. That's my goal.
It,
Right. Do
yeah.
you see what I'm saying? They jump to goal things, and I would love to have that much money in the bank as well by 2025 or earlier, right?
Hello.
So that's not the question here, but to I think that there is some work to be done before the goals,
Mm.
for those big goals, like really work, and preferably I would actually say with a coach. And
Yes.
that's not because I'm a coach and it would be nice to have clients and things like that. No, it's just because you have a coach holds up a mirror and makes you see things that
Mm.
you do not see yourself. I have a coach. I
I
bet
have a coach.
you have a coach, right? It's like you do not see your own blind spots. That's why they are blind spots, and everybody has them.
Mm.
So having somebody there to accompany you through the self-discovery process, and to help you find your a solid footing, a solid foundation before you then go and create goals and action plans
Mm.
and start
Mm.
executing and so on. I think that work comes first.
Oh,
You have, and,
definitely.
and I would say it's like mindset work, right? It's transformational work. It's discovering who you are envision where you want to be on a much broader sense than individual goals. And then, yeah, if the $1 million goal is still the one that you want to go after, then by all means do it. But I would not jump to goals that are, let's say, complex or long-term or important in our life, like directions of our life, without doing this other work before. What's your take on that, Anna?
Basically, I call it strategy. You know, it's a strategy. If I want to do this massive thing, it's like now I'm working with launching business online. I can barely open a computer. As you know, we talked about this. Tech to me, it's like, right? So I have to overcome stuff. I have to learn stuff. I have to study. I have to put in a whole lot of work to be able to do this. And I think that it's a strategy. If you go for a big goal or a big life-changing goal, it needs some kind of strategy. If you have to do studies, or you bring in a coach to help you with your mindset, to find your blind spot, because if it hasn't worked before, why would it suddenly work now? It's not like right now, oh, suddenly I want to be a millionaire. No, you probably wanted to be a millionaire your entire life. And then somebody said to you, oh, you set a goal, you will become a millionaire. But you won't, because you still have to move into that strategy, whatever it is and whatever it takes to get you to the point of being a millionaire or whatever it is you want. So definitely, I agree with you.
Yeah, the thing here, though, that I want to stress is you're already in the execution stage. You set this thing in motion when you decided, I'm going to open a business online, right?
Mhm.
What I'm saying is that before you decide that setting up a business online is right for you,
Mm.
there was some work
Oh, yes.
be done. See what I'm saying?
Oh,
It's like,
yes. Oh,
yeah,
yes.
there
Of
was,
course. I see
yes,
that
see,
before.
right. It's before. It's
Mm.
like, is this right for me? Is this something that I can commit to? Um, uh, does it fit me? Does it fit my purpose in life? Really, I mean, we're talking at that level. Does it fit my inclinations? Can I do this by myself? Because we haven't talked about it today, but as coaches we know your goals should be self-determined, that you can do it from start to finish by yourself
Mm.
without necessarily relying on the opinion or whatever of other people. That doesn't mean you can't hire somebody, right? But you are the one in control, and your goals cannot depend from other people. That's
So basically, I get what you're saying. So is this me, or is this an idea that I have from the world around me? Because now we're there that we talked about before, a lot of programming. You're supposed to be rich and beautiful and skinny and I don't know,
young,
everything.
young, young, young.
Young. Oh, yes, you're supposed to be young, which is like the dumbest thing in the world because that passes. And that there's a guarantee there. So all of these things, and I think you're really hitting the spot. And I think that's the spot where what I'm aiming for when I connect with my clients is the basic you. Who are you? What are the things that connect with you, that make you tick? It might not be the millionaire thing. That's just an idea because everybody has to be a millionaire, right? But maybe you want to, whatever, be of service. You want to go and help poor starving children something, and you don't really earn any money, but you feel fantastic. So yes, I agree with you. The first point is the I, the self. Where am I going? Where's my passion? Where's my purpose? And I think a lot of people have lost sight of that in this world of so much programming, and especially women.
And the thing is, we are stuck in our own story,
Yeah.
and it's very tricky to peel the onion to come down to the more fundamental whys. I have an example. You might have heard me talk about it before. I heard it the first time when I was studying coaching in Paris, France. So it goes something like this. A guy comes to a coach and said, I would like you to help me, to accompany me while I start learning chess. Okay. So in his head, the goal was, I want to learn chess. Okay, so that's the starting point. So in good fashion, it's like, why is that important to you? The coach says, well, I want to learn strategy. Why is that important to you? Well, I want to do better at the job. Why is that important to you? Well, I want to get promoted. Well, why is that important to you to get promoted? Well, I want to make more money. So why is it important to you to have more money? Well, I want to provide better for my family. Why is that important to you? Well, I feel guilty that I'm never home. So what this guy really wanted and decided to do ultimately is, instead of going to a chess club, he went home and had barbecue with his family. Right? I mean,
I love it. I
right?
love it.
No, but it's a far, like, maybe an extreme example, but we have seen as coaches things like that all the time.
Oh yes.
You get so, like, you have a symptom of something and you try to remedy that symptom instead of going back down to, like, the root cause. And the root cause is purpose in life, your personal preferences, your values that are important, and so on. And that's why I said it's not like you shouldn't do goals. That's not what I'm saying, but do figure out first what makes you tick before you commit to large goals.
Definitely.
And so that's maybe an important point to keep in mind today. So are goals important? Yes, at the right time.
Yes.
After the right groundwork has been laid. Of course, you don't need to do, like, major soul searching to say, I'm going to organize my apartment this weekend, right? I mean, that's not the level of goals we're talking about, right? But if then you say
life-changing goals,
you have no, but even if we stay with that one, let's see, how would I phrase it? I want my external environment to reflect who I am inside. That could be a more overarching goal. Right? So then you would go and you would say, well, yeah, it needs to be more organized. My brain is clear and structured and let's say not messy. So, but I live in this messy thing because I have too much stuff. So maybe I'm going to start decluttering, and then I'm going to set some things that room is being decluttered by the end of the month by, working on it 3 hours every weekend or something like that. So, but then you might even go further. In order for that really to fit, maybe you need to move to a different house, or you need to move to a different country or continent. Right? So I'm just saying, it's like, I want this, to me, it's important that the outside reflects the inside, because when I am in a quiet, organized space, I feel better, I am more creative, I'm more productive, I'm happier. So that's why all of a sudden this goes up in importance. And then, like everything, you are open to decide to what extent you take it. It's your life. It's your life. Are you going to declutter or not? Are you going to move or not? Those are decisions. But I think it was important in here to realize that it is a goal, a direction of yours to go in, to have that congruency between the external environment and your internal.
I'd like to, sorry, I'd like to again come back a bit to the why. We talked about this, it's popped up a few times. So it's like, for example, maybe this is also a good way to understand the internal push for this specific goal or wish. I think a lot of people would say, oh, I just like to have my house clean. But at the end of the day, like you just talked about decluttering the house, which I think is a really, really good picture. Why? You know, why? And you talk about, I wanted to reflect the peace and quiet I have on the inside, and or this, it's messing with my inner balance or whatever. So I think looking for a why in what we do and what we wish and what we choose is really, really important. Because why do you want to, like the guy who wants to learn chess when he can go home and have a barbecue with his family, the why behind it. Because I think very often, and I think this happens a lot to young people, right? They go to school and then they're told do all the thing, and they're very proper and they follow through on the goals, you know, the set goals that they have to follow. But then comes the day where they have to make choices, life changing, massive, major choices that might follow them for 10, 20, 30 years. And they don't know if they want to do this. And especially today, with the world changing so fast, I think for a young person today, what this person will do in the future doesn't even exist yet. It will start existing in 3 months. So we're in such a fast-paced society, and then it becomes even more important to find your inner why. What is it I want to do, and in what direction should I go, and what do I need to do it? And you see, so I think the why is still a really, really important question to ask ourselves when we make choices.
I actually think that it is a tragedy that very many very important decisions are required to be taken by people that are still teenagers,
kids.
Right? What do you want to do when you grow up? and they're like 16 years old, and they maybe already need to decide which, if they go to a vocational school, or they go to a technical school, or they are like university track or whatever, and they go and they make this decision. Imagine you have a 16-year-old girl, and I'm sorry if I'm stereotyping here, you have a 16-year-old girl that really loves to doll herself up, and she has a lot of fun doing makeup and things like that. It seems to be a reoccurring topic today, this makeup thing. She loves doing makeup with her friends and things like that. So then it pops into her head that she wants to become a hairdresser or a cosmetologist. Let's go with hairdresser, right? So that is then, in her head, she's 16 years old. Right. But then she goes and she enrolls in hairdresser school, and then she, in her 20s, she starts working at a salon and things like that. And then all of a sudden she's in her 30s, and she's like, is this all there is, cutting these people's hair? For very lousy wages all day long, being on my feet with my arms in the air and things like that, right? And so it's because of these decisions that these young people make when they're really immature. You can't know yet at that age who you are and what you're after and what your true values are. You haven't fully developed yet. And yet these decisions kind of lead you down a path in life. So I would really invite people to think about, are the things that you did back then still what you would choose today, and not being afraid to consider change. Right?
I think change is important, really important.
And this, see, I purposefully chose here a profession that is not online, and it's not in social media and so on, where stuff changes on a whim. And, for people like you and I, it's like, what's that new trend now? I am not a social media person. And so, it's very quick. It's, And so to have the courage to reassess throughout your life,
Mm,
really,
mm,
at 25 you make different decisions than at
mm.
16, and at 32 and 40 and 55 you're always going to make different decisions. To take a look inward, and then you can still decide to continue on the path that you're at.
Yes.
But it's too much for you to look for a new job, or too much for you to get retrained in a different
Mm,
thing, right? That's
mm,
okay. But do not live a default life.
voila.
Do not just continue down a path of rote because you're, I don't know, afraid or lazy or whatever. But you can always still make decisions
Or
and
numb. I think numb also.
no,
And I think of very often, I think another part that goes in there is fear. The fear of change, the fear. It could also be this kid that very early on decided he's going to be a surgeon or a lawyer or whatever. And he borrows tremendous amounts of money, does this education, he or she. And then finally they come out on the other side and they do this massive job and realize that I'm hating this. And at this point, it's like, sorry, those debts are going to have to be paid. And that freedom of making another choice somehow disappears. And I think for a lot of people, because the studying is so important right now, I never did walk that road because my life looked different, but I can see it. And I think that then you end up in a place where you feel sort of stuck because you can't really see a solution to this, that money has to be paid in and this job is paying you the money, but it will go on for so long. And I think that over time there is a numbness, and then maybe also a fear of changing, a fear. In Sweden there's a saying that says, I know what I have, but I don't know what I will get. Jag vet vad jag har, men jag vet inte vad jag får. And it's so telling. And I hear this so often from people. And I remember my mother would say, or no, my father would say this very often, or older people, the generation, they use that all the time. You know what you have, you don't know what you get. So stick to your guns, stay where you are, because that's a safe place. And this, of course, creates a lot of fear in people, that if I don't know, and most people I worked with all say, I hate surprises. I find it scary not to know. And I'm like, I love surprises. I love the I don't know space. Okay, maybe a bit over the top because, I have a madness in that. It's me and I like adventures. But I do understand that situation. And then we're back to what we talked about earlier. You have to step inside and release these doubts or numbness or fear to be able to follow changes that you might choose or that might fall on you without your choosing them, but be prepared for it,
I absolutely. But I want to take a step back though, and put a disclaimer in. As a coach, like here I found myself that sometimes I said you really should be reflecting and taking stock of who you are and things like that. um Obviously, as coaches, we accompany and we enable. We do not prescribe. When
No.
a client comes to me and is discontent or has issues, I am not forcing him to do anything, or I'm not prescribing him or her to do anything. Right? I mean, you offer, and people and clients make decisions. You're,
Mm,
as a client, you're always able to accept or not,
mm,
to decide to go forward or not, right? I mean,
mm,
it's like when I now hear say, yeah, I think in a perfect world, everybody should be self-reflected
mm,
and should, know who they are and follow their true inner purpose and mission and passion, right, and
mm,
creativity and things like that. But it's, if somebody comes to a coaching and they are just blocked
mm.
right? You take it where they're at and you go
Yes.
at their pace, right? So
Yes.
I just want to put that disclaimer out there that
Mm.
a coach does not force. A
No, we
coach
don't
does
give
not
pills.
make decisions for you. A
No.
coach does not push you into things where you don't want. It's all just, well, this
Support.
is what it is. This is what it is. Let's look at it from different perspectives. Let's really think about it, trying to illuminate some corners that were maybe dusty and dark before, and then you make a decision. And
Yeah,
if you decide to stay exactly where you are, that's fine.
that's
Because
fine.
the coach does not judge, and you can do whatever you want, and it's okay. So I just wanted to open that little
Yes,
parentheses.
that's a
Right.
good thing, because it's good to bring it up, because I think to us it's so selbstklar. It's so obvious. Now
Self-evident. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
so self-evident that we don't even think about it. So good
And
point to put up there.
yeah, because I'm very passionate about this, and it's something that I practice for myself a lot. And I have seen numerous clients doing very well after this kind of work. So
Hmm.
I'm getting kind of passionate about it. But, as a coach with a client, I'm not prescriptive. So,
No, I'm not prescriptive either. And
so, so
I also have another thing that comes to me. I have 4 children, and my children are, of course, they grew up with me, and I always had big questions, and, we discussed things. I always wanted to discuss. I wanted them to be informed, and I wanted them self-moving as quickly as possible, because that would keep them safe in life. I mean, I could get hit by a car and die, right? And we discuss a lot, but I never told them what way to go. And they come home with, oh, I'm going to become I want to be an actress. And I'm like, okay, dude, fine. I listen, and I wait, and I watch. And then at one point they figure it out, because also giving this space to another person as coaches, when we give this space to a client to actually unjudged be exactly who and what and where they are, and be okay in that spot, and feel fine in that spot. Growth can happen in whatever way it is. It might be that they say, excuse me, I'm perfectly happy here, I'm going to stay here, but now I am happy about it. I don't feel confused anymore.
exactly.
It's just this, to give space. And it's like, said, hands on your back and shut your mouth, basically, and then walk through with them, help them, show things, pose questions to maybe awake new ideas or thought patterns or whatever. But for the rest, it's about guiding, just walking with them, like an old lady that needs a strong arm to
Yeah.
lean on.
Yeah, because I have had clients that came like completely unhappy. And after really thinking about their situation and the alternatives,
Mm,
right? All of a
yeah.
sudden they're like, oh, now I choose to remain here.
Yes.
Because we see that there's always this self-responsibility and this freedom of choice that is fundamental in I think the way that I do coaching, right? You have this power, right? But then you need to live with the consequences, whether they're good or
Yeah.
bad. But all of a sudden they in view of the alternatives and the options and how much they wanted to invest and how much risk they wanted to assume and how much change they wanted to assume, they decided consciously
Mm,
and informed, they decided to stay where they are. But so from an outside view, their context might not have changed
mm,
after the coaching, but internally, the peace that they had and the acceptance that they had, and therefore also their sense of perceived well-being in that context had
mm,
dramatically
mm.
changed, right? So you can change the way that you view something without changing that something,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So much change and very fundamental change happens in your head. And you know what? Sometimes it happens in minutes.
Yes, it can
Oh,
be so
I
fast.
did not think about that before. Gee whiz. Okay, problem solved. Right?
Yes,
I mean, it has happened to
yes.
me. I have
Oh,
had
me too.
like
The
I have
aha.
coaching things where after 15 minutes into a session we wrapped it up because it was done. It
Mm,
was
finished.
done, right?
Mm,
And just starting the next topic of discussion at that moment would have been too much,
yes.
because this intense realization and this moment, the client kind of needed to just sit and let it percolate, and
Yes.
let
And to
let
settle
it
in it.
settle and let feel into it, right?
Mm,
So yeah, granted, we finished staying together, but I was just letting him do his
mm,
thing,
mm.
right? Recognizing that the work was internal and that any kind of questions or whatever that I would ask would just be disturbing, right?
Yes.
So it happens like that. Not all goal or not all change is truly external, right? That's
True.
why I think very often jumping to goals might be premature. That's again this thing that goals, yes, but judiciously at the right moment and then the right level of
Mm.
goals, right?
But then it comes to this, how we work with people and listen to them. And the point is, like you said before, Mr. P wants to be a millionaire by 2025. And it's a unjudicious goal because it's not it's just an idea. It's an idea, something that feels good, looks good. So if they don't have the support or the aid of a coach or somebody who can say, hang on a minute, what's going on here, what what are you thinking, they might be struggling to try to reach this goal to no avail. See what I'm saying? Because do we know when we make our goals judiciously?
Mm.
Or
Well,
do we follow a hope and a dream or desperation? I think a lot of emotions go into when people set goals, and if we're not clear with those emotions, what is pushing us towards this goal and what and the why, we might just fail miserably because it's not on the radar
yeah,
from this point.
because if I were to ask you, if you had €1 million in a couple of years, what would you do with it? What you would do with it is vastly different than what I would do with
Yeah.
it, or what the next person, this Mr. P, would do with it, right? So
Mm.
that's where the why comes in. Um, I don't know if the role of the coach in that particular thing. I mean, Mr. P might be somebody who has a plan where it makes absolute sense for him to expect that he's going to have €1 million in a couple of years. He has set up a business, or he will set up a business. He knows what to sell, how to sell, how he's going to market his products or services. He knows which people he's going
No,
to
this is not
collaborate
Mr.
with,
P.
right?
I'm
So,
talking
so
about I'm
no,
talking about Mr. P. No, I see what you're saying, but I'm talking about the goal thing is out there, right? Set your goals, go for your goals is the shout out all over social media. I look a lot at social media. It's this push to set a goal and go for it, and you can do it, and don't give up, and you just do it, and all of these things. So Mr. P might be he's just picking something up. He has no plan. He has no idea how this is going to happen. But somehow, and I think this is for a lot of people, they have the belief from the input from outside that if you set a goal, you will reach it. Because this, I'm sorry to say, but when I look around, I see that this is so often the message. If you just set a goal, you're going to be all good. You're going to reach it. All you need to do is to set that goal, period.
And then there's people that call themselves coaches that tout like the law of abundance, or the
Yes.
law of attraction. Sorry, right?
You just need to want.
That you just need to wish for it, and talk to yourself in front of the mirror, and magically it's going to materialize, right? Very, very dangerous.
Yes.
I think, because stuff requires action and discipline and all that kind of stuff, and hard work, and okay. So a lot of people want to have the result without putting in what needs to be put in, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But see, the thing is, there's set the goals and things like that. It's, if you just do it to go through a half-hour exercise, right, then it's only what you got after doing a half-hour exercise. How is it supposed to change your life, or the way that you view the world, or actions that your habits? It's not going to magically change it, right? I mean, I put together a habits program, literally, that in the thing that we're going to, at least for something small, stick together for 4 weeks, and try to figure out what makes a goal, or what makes a habit stick, and what makes a habit not stick. And it's this more of a self-discovery thing than the goal, that the habit that we're going to be after is going to be a small one that makes sense, right? It's going to be an example of a thing of raising awareness about yourself and how you respond to change, right? So the thing is, this Mr. P, whoever is touting this out there on social media, is doing him a disservice.
Oh, yes.
Because setting a goal it's just like this. Again, this New Year's resolution, you say it at 3 minutes to midnight, I should really set some goals now for next year. Well, let's say, I'm going to do that and that and that, right? And I wonder how many fitness studios are in business just with the memberships that
one day
sold like in the maybe sold online, like on January 1st, and people never even show up the entire year. It just doesn't happen, right? It's two different pair of shoes. Goal setting can be an absolutely vacuous thing. It doesn't mean anything to set a goal.
No.
You have to reach for it. You have to work on it. You have to strategize for it. You have to stick with it. There's accountability over the long term. And that's where really the problem comes in for many people, that especially when the goals are not aligned with who they are, the way that they function, this true inner drive and purpose and passion. And if that's not aligned, guess what? The fact that you set a goal,
it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
And it's not enough just to set a goal. It's not enough to say, I want. I mean, look at a 5-year-old does. I want the candy. And yeah, maybe she gets lucky, but chances are that she doesn't get lucky and she's not going to have that candy. So it's sort of that situation. And then, of course, sometimes maybe it just works out. And they're like, no, it's easy. It happened, because these things happen to these miraculous, and you think, what? But okay. And that's enough to trigger a whole bunch of other people to say, okay, that was easy. It's like, with everything, it's also loving yourself, right? Loving yourself has been around on the media for a long time also. And you just look in the mirror and you say, I love you, I love you, I love you. And you put up the post-it stickers and everything, which is fine. It's really good. This post-its, and you know how it is with post-its. It's been there longer than a week, you don't see them anymore. So that's not going to work. But you still have to have that conversation with the flip side inside. Because if you have a problem loving yourself, there's a flip side. If you have a problem believing that you can reach a goal, there's a flip side. And this is what we talked about, what we've been coming up in our conversation all along, is that if it's not in line with what is going on inside, it's not going to happen. And what's going on inside is not necessarily always a positive thing. Because I think that's the idea too, that
Yeah.
we're fighting a lot of little demons. Maybe we were told our entire life, you're so dumb, you can never amount to anything, and this person turns out to be an absolute genius in something weird. I mean, that bit is there too.
Yeah,
The belief.
your brain is not your friend. We have no, your brain is
No,
not your
it's
friend.
not.
Actually, I used to tutor, being a learn coach, and a lot of, I mean, these were people that were like finishing high school, early university. They would come for things like mathematics and computer science, and all of them was like, I would say, your brain is not your friend, where they caught themselves again, hitting again themselves at the exact same corners that always exist. Because the thing is, if our belief system is a self-fulfilling prophecy, it wants your beliefs to stay true. If all of a sudden you go after a goal that is in opposition or even just slight friction with your belief system, you're going to self-sabotage.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. Meaning the fact that your goal is not attainable at that moment is not because of some external forces,
No,
but
it's
it
internal.
is because it is not truly conceivable in your own brain, in your own mindset. It does not fit. And then, come lack of willpower, literally
Self-sabotage.
sabotaging yourself, doing anything but, and so on. It's just not going to happen, right? And because your brain is not going to go um, in a direction that it does not feel,
Recognize.
seen, recognized as something that is coherent with the belief system. And so that's where all that comes from, because it's not only that setting goals would be, useless if you don't follow through, but even if you follow through and
Yeah.
work hard at it and work long on it, if it's not truly aligned, there is going to come a moment that it's just not going to happen. Where stuff, like a house of cards, it's going
Yeah.
to fall apart. And it's too darn hard. It's too darn hard to go after goals that are not congruent, that are not consistent with your mindset, because it requires so much self. I'm You have to overcome yourself again and again and again, and it's really hard and really tedious.
And you have to understand, I think also you have to understand that you are overcoming yourself over and over again, because that's the forward movement. But if you don't understand, you're overcoming yourself at the same point over and over and over again. And that's heartbreaking. So,
Yeah, yeah.
and then you
Because
feel like a failure, and then that will feed into that programming, and everything is horrible. So goal setting from this point of view, this really strict goal setting can be really detrimental to who you are as a person if it's not online with your inner values or whatever, unless you get a coach
yeah, it
that can
helps.
help you, that can actually walk you through it when you say, hang on, now I got stuck again, I don't understand. But you first have to have also the understanding that you're getting stuck, that something is happening, that there is a clash within. Because if you don't have this understanding, you're not going to ask for that help or support you might need.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, it is important because the thing is, you as the one pursuing this, you always hit yourself. You don't make progress despite your best efforts,
Yes.
really, despite your perceived best efforts
Mm.
and very much hard work.
Mm.
But it just
Doesn't
doesn't
work.
go there. It just doesn't go there.
Mm.
And that might just be some, to you, invisible limiting belief holding you back,
Yeah.
or to you an avenue, or an opportunity, a possibility that you can't see because it is filtered out by
Mm.
your perception, by
Mm.
your
By the
inner
limited
model. You
belief.
don't see it, right? You
Yeah.
just don't see it.
Mm.
And a coach, when he's a mountain guide coming you along, he also has a flashlight that he can use
Yeah.
to
Yes.
help you illuminate certain aspects of it.
Mm.
And I
And
have,
also, because we talked earlier of coaching and so on. I say awareness coach, and the way my road is to turn people on to this self-awareness. I start, and everybody's different, right? So I have three levels. It's your physical body, it's your mental state, your mental, and your emotions, right? So it's the three because they're like really obvious and easy. So I find out, and it's different for everybody. So I find out, okay, for you, it's your emotional thing because you're really connected to that and it's ruling you. So it's topmost all the time. To start moving in there and see what's going on. Why did this happen now? To stop, just slow down. And when something is triggered or pops up, to stop and just take that moment, say, okay, hang on, now, what was that? I do this because for me, the emotion, it's all here, right? What is that? Or what is in your head? To every now and then just stop and say, what is in my head right now? Like 10 million different radios on different channels or whatever. Just this first awareness. Because once you open that door to yourself, you cannot close it again. Once you've opened, it might be a long journey, but it's about you and your life. And very often, the more you get into it, the more it becomes an exciting journey, because the changes, when you start doing this, the changes it brings into your lives are really, really obvious right from the start. So it might not be that $1 million, but you found a fiver in the street. You know what I'm saying? So this is how I work. And then they can continue doing it at home. I have so many tips and tricks, and there's no one size fits all. But I can find something that will fit, from my toolbox. And then you can work it on your own.
yeah.
And you can still do this work. And also at that point, you become very aware of when you need to ask for support, when it's time to get help. Right?
Yeah.
So,
I,
yeah.
I absolutely agree. I mean, most, if not all, of my clients become actually fans later on of mindfulness.
Yes.
Right. And I always say, like, 1 foot above and 1 step behind, that there's a part of you that's always kind of the slightly detached observer of what's going on,
Yes.
and then has comments like, oh, look at there's anger bubbling up. Not I am angry, but look,
No, but
there's anger. Or, oh, there's overwhelm. And I wonder if there's again disbelief, this pattern that plays itself again. Oh, how interesting. I reacted or there was a strong reaction to this particular trigger. I wonder what's going on.
yeah.
So I think that it starts so much with just knowing what's going on. Like you said, in our body, I feel this tension in my body, or I feel my neck cramping up, or my teeth are clenched,
Ah, this is my
or
thing.
right, or oh, this is something that allows me to relax and open up and recharge my batteries. It's not always negative, obviously. To that, and then cognitively, that yes, oh, we went into this cognitive pattern. We responded instead of we reacted instead of responded. Sorry, and but also these emotions, this upwelling of anger, and it's like, oh, there's anger. We know that when we are angry, we overreact or we lash out at the wrong people.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's anger bubbling up. Maybe we should take a step back. And it starts really with this moment of awareness, this ever so slight pause, because this little pause allows us then to decide consciously, and in light of what's going on at these three different levels, how are we going to respond, instead of like this anger lashing out by reacting to a certain trigger, actually saying, oh, I recognize what's going on, and now I am free to decide either that or that. And if the
And
person
this,
just like,
there's so much freedom and power in that, but
yes.
that's also the space where it's to recognize the triggers and all that, but that's also the space where this tiny aha happens, right? Where this tiny bah, oh yes, it's this literally that light bulb that goes ding over your head, and you might be sitting, you might be doing the dishes, and you're just chilling out doing the dishes, but you've got a little problem that's been going in the back of your head for some time, and it might be big, it might be small, and suddenly it's like a ding, and there it is, the solution or the answer or the understanding of the situation. Because our bodies and our mental systems, we know we carry everything we need inside. We just need to allow space for that to happen. And I think when we first start listening to ourselves, we see a lot of the negatives because they're the surface stuff. It's what we've been told at school, by parents, by society, social media, whatever. This is sort of the top layer of things. And once we start seeing, we recognize triggers or we recognize this and that, and that's fine, then we come into a deeper level where there's so much knowledge and comprehension that gives these triggers to inner triggers, shall we say, to moving forward outside, maybe setting a goal or cleaning your house or whatever it may be, because it has to come, that trigger comes from inside. And that's when you can set a goal. But if the trigger comes from the outside, you're building your goal on nothing. And if you're building it on something, you're building it on that top negative layer, which, like you said, where the mind, it just goes, I don't know, you said it in such a good way, but I forgot that now. But then you're there, the brain can only do what it can do. It will just follow the same old pattern, and then nothing would happen. So this is so funky.
Yeah, it requires some effort. Change is not free, and therefore I think it behooves all of us to put our effort in the right kind of goals, right kind of directions, the right habits, right? So because the habits, I really think, are kind of like the foundation, the foundational structure of our life, right? If you have good habits, you will up somewhere else than if you have really detrimental habits. In any case, there's so much to be going on. I'm sure, Anna, we're going to have a lot of fun talking about many different things in the future. Was there anything in particular more that you would like to add to this? Do we need goals, or are goals important?
No, I must say, I didn't contemplate it too much before because I didn't want to go into our call with all these ideas. Because I found that before when we've talked, that there is this space that opens and we can go so deep into it, and we're each other's and our own devil's advocates as well, which is really fantastic. So it's been so exciting to delve so deeply into this topic, where we get to a place which I think normally people wouldn't even connect to goal setting, you know?
Yeah, it's I also did not prepare. And I love how we just ride a wave and go where it takes us. So for all of the ones listening, I do have a page on my website where people can ask questions related to things that we're going to pick up, in future sessions. So the link is going to be in the description of this video, and I hope that people are going to feel inspired to join the discussion, or at least ask us a question. I think that it's probably a good place here to stop for today. And Anna,
Yes.
it was a true pleasure. Thank you so much.
Oh, I love having these contemplative conversations with you, my dear friend. This is
Okay,
amazing.
fabulous. It's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
And until
much,
next
and have a
time,
wonderful day. I
you
hope you get the sun soon.